let's go to the 1-2-3 inning. So let's talk about this Yankee Dodger series. So obviously the big thing, and we touched on it a little bit during the rant, but let's try to really dive in. One of the things I think that I completely left out is when we were previewing the series last week, is that not only is Tyler Glass now an absolute Yankee killer, but so is Teoscar Hernandez. Teoscar Hernandez, and here's the thing: this is not a just this series sort of thing. I don't know what his actual numbers are. I'm sure they're easily Googleable, but Teoscar Hernandez has always been a Yankee killer. When he was in Seattle, when he was in Toronto, like he has crushed the Yankees his entire career. And it is just something that, I don't know, went over my head when we were previewing the series. And what did he do in this series? He was probably the best player on both sides the entire series. So, I mean, I don't know. 2 out of 3. You and I both kind of predicted it. I think we kind of got the games wrong in a sense, but 2 out of 3 Dodgers took that series. So what are your main takeaways? What did you see out of this series that you kind of want to point out here?
So, I mean, obviously I'm watching it from the perspective of a Dodger fan, but I think, if we were to speak to the narrative of the series, game 1 was very cagey, right? Like big pitching performances, a lot of back and forth, teams kind of threatening, nobody breaking through. It felt to me for much of the night like the Yankees were the team that was going to break through. And it felt like eventually that, the Dodgers were just bound to have something happen. And obviously it was Teoscar Hernandez with the 2-run double in the 11th. And then, we're stuck with Yohan Ramirez out there to try to close down a game. I mean, my God. Somehow he did it, which was cool. But, I'll kind of take you game by game with my thoughts. I mean, obviously Friday night was the Yoshinobu Yamamoto show for me.
It was
I mean,
lights out.
just like, we talked last week about the environment that he was going to be facing in that game. And obviously the vitriol from Yankee fans. And I'm sure, look, some of it's good natured vitriol, right? It's like, hey, you didn't sign here, but it's also a lot of like, hey, fuck you, man,
Right, exactly.
And man, 7 innings, no runs, just 2 hits, 2 walks. Look, I'm not going to be one of those people who's like throw out the first game and look at the stats because like first game counts and whatever. But like, if you look at the last 12 starts, he's been as good as almost anybody in baseball. I mean, he's been a top 10 pitcher in baseball if you look at the last 12 starts or so. And like when you think about what the Dodgers signed there, we're talking about a 25-year-old kid. Like this is a young pitcher. So the arrow's just shooting up with him. Really exciting. Saturday, obviously, the Dodgers bats kind of woke up late and made what was a competitive game into a not so competitive game. But, really good to see Gavin Stone continue to just pitch well in big spots. He did it against Atlanta earlier this year. He didn't dominate the Yankees by any means in this game, but he was competitive around the zone, did what he needed to do. That changeup is just nasty. So that was good to see. Dodgers got to Nestor a little bit, but he kind of hung around. And that was the fun one for me was Saturday. Sunday, Dodgers perspective, I mean, it's hard to be too pissed, right? I mean, a guy who's hitting 085 hits your ace for a 3-run homer in a big spot. You kind of just tip your cap at a certain point. You're like, all right, hey, like dude ran into one. Good for him. I like the way we kept fighting, stayed in that game, created opportunities all the way through. You're not going to win them all, especially against a damn good team on their field, right? So, tough to be upset as a Dodger fan. Awesome weekend of baseball. I think it was like kind of a stalemate and then punch, counter punch. I don't think we learned some big, Dodgers are like have the Yankees number. Like, I don't think we really learned anything like that, but I just think it was a lot of really high quality baseball.
Yeah. No, I think one of the things that we did learn in this series is that like you can't say at this point in time that one is definitively better than the other. Right.
Oh, no.
Like I think you can kind of come away from that series saying, and you and I were texting privately before this, even saying like, look, like the Yankees had their clear-cut win. The Dodgers had their clear-cut win, and then it was an 11-inning shootout to kind of decide the decide who won the series, right?
Yeah.
It is as if they split. Like it is almost as if like that's as close as you can get. I do think, like I said, like it's really hard to argue with a lot of what you're saying, right? I think a lot of Yankee fans looked at this weekend sort of as okay, like we're not super upset about this, but like it really kind of highlighted the importance of Juan Soto just because it looks like without Juan Soto in that lineup, there's two things really that are going on. One, they really do have a problem with driving in runners in scoring position. Like that could really be an issue without Juan Soto in the lineup. And that's to be expected, right? I mean, he's one of the five best players in all of baseball at this point. But the other thing is that like the body language is just different. Like you can actually see, like, it's not even like he's not on the team. He's in the dugout. He's just not playing, right? Like the entire attitude, the entire feel around that team is so much different when Juan Soto doesn't play. It's night and day. Like it really, really is. So I can appreciate the fight in a sense that they were able to hang around with the Dodgers for a lot of this series and then eventually win one. But also, by the way, the guy who ended up really kind of blowing the game wide open for the Dodgers, Dennis Santana on our end, got himself a good old DFA after the series was over. So,
Well, I feel so bad for Dennis Santana. I remember when he came up with the Dodgers and he was supposed to be this big pitching prospect, and he pitched at Yankee Stadium for the Dodgers in 2016, and it was man, I was so excited. So wishing him the best.
Yeah, no, me too. Honestly, like there were outings, like I said, he had his ups and downs, right? It was just recently where he really started getting shelled. Early on in the year, he was lights out for most of the year. Like for most of his time here, he was actually pretty sick. But he's now out of the Yankee organization for the most part. Here's the thing I kind of want to bring up, and it's a bit like watered down because like as much as it was a thrilling series for you and I, right? For a Yankee fan and a Dodger fan, I really think that Juan Soto not playing in this series was really kind of an L for baseball. Like that was kind of like you pretty much watched the Dodgers with Ohtani, with Yamamoto, like with this, $1.5 billion payroll of if you count the next 10 years or whatever, right? Like you watch this full-fledged, fully healthy, unbelievable Dodger team go up against the Yankees from last year. Like that's kind of how it felt for me is like yes, it's like the Yankees are a better team this year than they were last year, and it was still a very exciting series as a from a spectator standpoint. But like you clearly saw a difference between how the Yankees were playing with Juan Soto and where they are without Juan Soto. I just think that like that took something away from the series for me. And maybe that's just because, maybe that's at least part of that is because I'm a Yankee fan. I'm watching it from a Yankee perspective, and I'm disappointed that the guy hasn't gotten hurt in 2 years. And then all of a sudden he, gets hurt right conveniently when they play the Dodgers at Yankee Stadium. It's a little frustrating, but I do think that, a lot of what's exciting about these series is that you're playing, it's the best against the best. Right. And I don't think you were getting the Yankees' best in this series.
Well, I agree that Juan Soto missing is an L for baseball. Obviously, I think that series looks, a little bit different on paper with him in it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's fair to say, oh, well, we got to look at the fully healthy Dodgers against the not so healthy Yankees. I mean, Max Muncy's out. A whole roster of pitchers are out.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, like I get it. The Dodgers stars are healthy, which is really I think what you're getting at.
Yeah. Right.
So I agree with that, but I do think it's worth noting like the Dodgers are not perfectly healthy either.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, missing Juan Soto is a big deal. It leads to my big Yankee takeaway from the series, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on me saying this. I think in a way, the Yankees losing that series is potentially a good thing for them because I think it, at least from a Dodger fan perspective, it brought two things into focus for me more clearly. And I think it probably brought those things more into focus for some Yankee fans as well. Number one, the Yankee bullpen outside of Clay Holmes has been good, but none of those guys intimidate me.
Yeah.
Like none of them. And I, and I kind of like I thought of the Yankees as having this super pen going into that series. And as the series goes along, and like it's Luke Weaver as the setup man, and it's Caleb Ferguson, and I'm like, and it's Tommy Kahnle good more than he's not, but like they're just not guys who scare me. And maybe it's because I watched the Dodgers beat the hell out of Luke Weaver when he was with the Diamondbacks for a long time, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's because like I've had Caleb Ferguson in my bullpen and like he just doesn't like he's up and down, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah,
but like outside of Clay Holmes, I don't look at that bullpen and feel really intimidated by anybody.
yes.
Now, having the dragon at the back of the bullpen is great, right? A lot of teams don't have that. And it's still a relative strength for the Yankees, but I do think like it wouldn't hurt them to grab another bullpen piece as the season goes along. Second takeaway I had for the Yankees in a very similar vein, and this goes back to the Juan Soto thing you were talking about.
Yeah.
When you look at the lineup the Yankees are sending out there when Soto's not available, like it gets thin in a hurry.
Yeah.
And, I think internally maybe I kind of knew that, but having a chance to watch this team play a little bit more closely this weekend, Volpe's having a great year, right? Offensive breakout for him. Verdugo's been solid.
Yeah.
Judge is obviously on a different planet. But outside of those guys, Stanton's hitting for power, but basically the whole lineup the rest of the way are guys hitting under 230.
Right.
Like Stanton, Rizzo has just been not great, right? Glaber, there's some power. There's certainly value in his game, but he's batting, 229, I think.
Yeah.
The catching tandem of Wells and Trevino is not a huge offensive threat. And obviously when Trent Grisham is having to play outfield for you, there's not a ton of an offensive threat there.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously Oswaldo Cabrera hit a home run. That was great. One thing you said earlier in the show, if Juan Soto is going to be missing time, he's back in the lineup tonight, but like, I almost feel like if I were in the Yankees' shoes, I might have called up Jason Dominguez for this last weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And look, Trent Grisham got a big hit. I get it. But like, if I'm a Yankee fan, I'd rather see Jason Dominguez in that roster spot than Trent Grisham. What do you think of that?
Well, here's the thing. I think it depends on, what you expect the lineup to look like, right? Because I think the reason they're not bringing up Dominguez primarily is because he doesn't have a spot every day, right? Like Jason Dominguez, they want to bring up Jason Dominguez when he's going to get every day at bats. If you're bringing him up to take Trent Grisham's spot, and I agree with you, like Jason Dominguez already, in my opinion, is a better player than Trent Grisham, but Trent Grisham's your fourth outfielder, and that's what Jason Dominguez would be. He would be your fourth outfielder, right? Because Judge Soto and Verdugo are in the lineup every day, no questions asked, no doubt about it, right? And listen, I could even make the argument that, in my humble opinion, I think Jason Dominguez could be a superstar in the league. I think he could be better than Verdugo already too. But I don't think that they're looking at this as like they're looking at that as like we don't have to rush Jason Dominguez back because unless he's getting every day at bats, like the Yankee outfield, as far as production has been concerned, has been one of the best in baseball, primarily because of Judge and Soto. So they're looking at that as like, look, we don't even need Dominguez at this point. Like if you get to a point later in the year where like Verdugo's bat starts to really slide, Stanton is really not hitting, right? Like you get into a point where like you can actually open up a spot because some guy's playing awful, then I think Dominguez comes up and plays. So yeah, that's kind of where I feel about that. Again, but the plus side of Grisham really is his glove, right? He's a plus defensive center fielder, and that's valuable to have, right?
Yeah.
And I think in Yankee Stadium, Grisham's power plays a little bit more. He's a dead pull hitter, right?
Yeah.
He can take advantage of the short porch more than you can think. But that's the thing is when Juan Soto's healthy, Trent Grisham plays once or twice every 2 weeks, and I can live with that. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of where I'm seeing that at the moment.
So here's a solution
Mm-hmm.
that you're not going to like.
Oh boy.
Aaron Judge is 32 years old and 6'7".
Yeah.
Like, we already saw Bryce Harper move to first base.
Move him to first base. I know it, right.
And I get it, right? Like,
yeah.
Judge is a plus defender in the outfield. He's an unbelievable arm plus defender. I'm not saying that this is like a meet. This is something you want to do right now.
Mm-hmm.
But, like,
sure.
You have to think about Aaron Judge, especially with what you've seen from Rizzo. Like, how much better does the Yankees lineup get if Judge becomes the first baseman, Dominguez enters the lineup, Rizzo becomes a reserve who you use, like you kind of pick your spots with them. Just a thought, right? Like how much,
It's not a bad thought at all. And again, that's already kind of been brought up among the Yankee community. There are a lot of people that are saying like eventually you're going to have to pick a guy to move over to first, right? And everybody expects that to be Aaron Judge at some point because he's fucking 6'7" and he could probably reach every overthrow that you can make. Like he's already taken reps at first base. So I think that's a real point. I think that they're and again, this is not necessarily what I would do. I think that maybe I would look at this a little bit differently, but I think the way that the Yankees are looking at this is they're saying that's a future plan, right? Aaron Judge could eventually move to first. We think Juan Soto is going to stay here long term. Dominguez is going to come up. Spencer Jones is going to come up. And those guys, like Dominguez is not a plus defensive outfielder. He's an average defensive outfielder. Spencer Jones is a great defensive outfielder. So I think they look at, all right, Spencer Jones, future in center field, Jason Dominguez, likely future in left, Juan Soto, future in right. And then that's your outfield. Judge at first base. Verdugo's a 1-year rental. I don't think he's coming back next year. So, like, I think that's kind of where they see this going. But I also agree that, and this is kind of what my point was, is that, like, Juan Soto's impact on this team, that was my main takeaway the whole series, is that, like, you can actually see it and it gets there quickly, right? Because as poorly as Anthony Rizzo has been playing recently, he's just not hitting. He's just not hitting, right? So, like, that's a problem. Gleyber Torres has done better recently. He was off to an unbelievably terrible start, and over the last month or so, he's been hitting a little bit better. But even then, right? Like Gleyber Torres, in my opinion, has been one of the more underwhelming Yankee prospects in recent memory. Like, he's not a bad player by any stretch of the imagination, but he was a top 3 prospect in all of baseball at one point. Like, you were expecting him to be 290, 30, and 100 every year. Like, and that's just not what he is. He's 250, 20 to 25, and 60 every year. As a second baseman, like, that profiles as a fairly solid second base bat, but even still, like, you're expecting him to be a stud, and he's just not. So, you know.
No, I think those points are all fair, right? And it's a like it's well taken, like with the Soto thing, right? I mean, I think kind of like I talked about with the Yankees bullpen, where it's like it's thinner to me than I thought it was.
Yeah,
I came away feeling the same way about their lineup, where it felt like watching these games. It's like once the Dodger pitching got through Stanton, I was like, we can kind of exhale here for a minute. Like that's kind of how it felt, and like a Yankee lineup shouldn't feel that way just because one guy's out. And so maybe this is a wake up call to the Yankees that, like, hey, you actually probably could use another bat or two. Like, it wouldn't hurt, you know?
I think you're right on the money with that also. I think they would explore a bat at the right price. I don't know that that's going to be their top priority. The bullpen will absolutely be a priority. Like, that is a point that it's very well taken, because especially, and this has been kind of an effect on the bullpen for most of the year, Jonathan Loaisiga being out is a big hit on that bullpen because he's nasty, right? So if Loaisiga is out, Luke Weaver has been phenomenal for the Yankees all season long. So, like, he's going to be one of your back end guys, I think, no matter what. But
so he is, but we also have a whole career of Luke Weaver being just a guy.
Certainly.
You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? So for me, it's like he's been phenomenal, but like, do you trust it? I don't know. Like, I don't think I trust it enough to not want to go get more.
No, I
Not
100%.
either, but you know,
100%. No, I would agree. I think that, but that's what I'm saying is I think that's going to be their top priority. They're going to look at the bullpen and be like, okay, let's try to get at least one more back end legit guy that we trust, and maybe another middle relief guy that, you know, maybe isn't as back end, but somebody that we can rely on in a close game, whatever.
yeah.
Right. I do think that that's probably the direction that they go in. Okay, I think we've bled this series dry. What do you think?
I think we can put it to bed. Let's talk about the rest of the league.
Yeah, let's do just that.